To give a quick intro, I have been in the blockchain space for the last 10 years. I've been running Key Difference Media, a blockchain marketing agency, which moved into an accelerator recently in Dubai. Key Difference, and I've been in the media space since 2017. I've been the head of News BTC and Bitcoinist in the early days, and moving forward to right now, we have incubated many of the top 10 crypto media, like Cryptopolitan and so on. So being in the news side, seeing the newsrooms, so I'm super thrilled to get some answers from these amazing guests who are all in the similar position as well. So we'll have a quick introduction and we'll go from there.
Sure. Let's start maybe just talking about news and media in crypto industry. As a CMO of Being Crypto, we see that like we get a lot of news feeded from the public, especially like a Telegram and Twitter. It's not like a traditional media space where you'll go and get your news from the spokesperson, but it's like more of an insider news coming, and we were backstage also discussing how this internal news and like news you gather from the public is more important to understand like a scam project, what's happening in the media, kind of a feeding back to the community the news. Otherwise, it's very hard.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm the founder of Yap Global. So Yap Global, we're a PR agency that's been, specializing in helping crypto companies tell their stories in the media for almost 6 years. My background's in journalism, so a lot of what we do is pitching the media. So pitching CoinDesk, Bloomberg, CNBC, Financial Times, and so we really have to make sure that we are ahead of the journalists, making sure that we're respecting the ethics of journalism, and that means we also have to filter out kind of the clients that we work with and the types of stories that we tell. So that's where I'm coming from here.
Hi, my name is Abhishek, and I run a company called Voice of Crypto. It's the first decentralized media platform where anybody can come, they can create content, they can write content, and it gets approved, and if it is approved, you get paid for it. So the idea here is that everything else is decentralized. We're also giving this power of journalism to everybody. It's all about bringing citizen journalism to everybody, and they can create content here. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Ash from New Kids on the Blockchain. Myself and my wife are documentary makers, and we've been documenting the whole crypto space since 2017. We put out our first feature doc in 2020, which was on the rise of the ICO and the demise of the ICO. And we put out another documentary last year on DeFi, and we are basically just enjoying the wild ride.
So when we talk about ethics, there are two things that drive it. One is a skill set. Is the person who is talking about it, writing about it, do they even have the skill to understand what they're doing? And the second is money. Who funds this whole operation? So let's start with the money aspect here. I want to understand from you how you see the challenge with being able to fund or receive the revenue to continue the operations with the journalism here, and what is your perspective around the challenges there?
Okay, when it comes to money, all businesses need to get the money to survive, and especially when you look at the media space, there are two ways to kind of survive. One is to generate revenue through ads and media publication, which is not as lucrative. And then we see that venture money is in there. And from all the large media that we mentioned, including like largest as Forbes, that Binance has 2 seats on their board, it means either you need to kind of survive on a venture money, and then the aspect you can show is really limited. We saw same with the FTX case and New York Times, how it's like a kind of trying to use a different narrative, and it becomes a very big challenge whether you choose the money and ethics, and where does that border happens, and where you are actually a journalist and where that business comes in.
I mean, we're a PR firm, so it's about we focus solely on earned media. So actually, if we're going to talk about the money aspect, we don't do pay for play. So we make sure we earn the pieces of coverage that we work on. So we really have to, we charge our clients retainer fees, but we do a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure we're formulating the right stories, the right angles, at the right timing, keeping up with the trends. So that's kind of how, we keep up as a PR agency.
I think I have a specific question for you, but I'll first finish this
Sure.
and join you on that.
So I feel we are not just dependent on advertising in which you have to bend certain rules for your brands which you're working with. You have models like you can also ask a subscription from your readers. You can do certain amount of paid content. And I think if you have multiple business models, you're not just dependent on one. And then you can still keep the integrity of your journalism here.
You are, since you're in the feature films, I think this question is much more important to you. It's not easy to do what you're doing, so.
No, I think documentary is very difficult because the minute you take money from anywhere, you're not in a neutral situation. So for us, we've tried to be as independent as we can all the way through the process with a look to then monetizing the end product. The difficulty is, as you get into covering something that's so project-led, eventually somebody wants you to cover a project and somebody will say, we will pay you to cover this project. And the minute you take that, you're walking that really tightrope line of ethics. So for us, we've decided we will never do any paid sort of project reviews. We did for a while, and we were very transparent, but it became very easy to find ourselves kind of on the balance there. So we felt very uncomfortable with it. So I think finding ways to monetize from our end is very difficult without stepping over that line.
But also, like in recent years, I noticed that, especially in the crypto industry, like taking money wasn't the problem. Problem was that when things go down, people start like a kind of distancing themselves from, like we know a lot of celebrities took money from FTX and others, Lunas, and then the moment it's going down, everyone was like, oh, actually that's not what I wanted to say. Oh, like I took like the 150 million, but I didn't know what I'm doing, like all this Kardashian case. And I think when we talk about ethics, it's about like, you need to think about ethics before you take the money, not like after you take the money. Similar to
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I
if you do refer to that, then it's almost the moment you have the money, you still have to say what you got to say. But if you do say that, the next time you're not going to have people coming and paying you because you actually put them on the bad part of the spotlight. So it is a hard balance. It's a hard thread to work with because you do need to keep your clients happy, but the clients keeping them happy could mean a disservice to the whole crypto community. So what is your balance?
And I just also want to add to that. I mean, so just to follow on from that, during the height of the bull market, us as an agency, we had so many requests for PR from many different projects. So we really had to filter out and actually learn to say no. I mean, it's tempting, you know, it's when you've got people who have large budgets and just want to throw money at you just to get some coverage. Reputation is something that takes years and years and years to build and like seconds to ruin. So you've got to make sure if you're serious about building, you know, a strong, credible reputation in the Web3 space, don't cut corners, even in a bull market when there's a lot of temptations and a lot of money flying around.
In the bull market, that's very obvious. The moment you receive emails, 80% of them, you know, even before you open the title, you know it's a scam. And it's easy to say no in those instances, but there are also cases where it's extremely hard. It requires due diligence, technical understanding to do it. So how do you go about that if you have an idea to share?
Honestly, like we can think of like a journalist that's similar to the industry, like you're a medical doctor, right? You need to even assist the worst person on earth, or if you are a lawyer, you need to kind of defend a bad person. Therefore, as a media, you need to give a space for everyone to express themselves, to be able to understand which side you are, because if you are on a single side, then you are also like not a neutral. But also it's very important to understand which narrative you support and give the most loudest voice, because if you end up listening to the only one pitch from the one agency and featuring their clients, even though it's like PR agency gets all the money, as a journalist, if you are pitched a story and you decide to feature it, you gain nothing from it. But like people in the middle, they do. But at the end of the day, it's very hard for a media to understand like where you decide to get the money, how you do your own scam checks, and you make sure that you cross-reference, you have all the things in together. Then little bit gut feeling to make sure that you need to be knowledgeable about what's happening in the market, listen to the gossip and people talking around. Otherwise, if you don't have that gut feeling, you'll be ending up doing mistakes and maybe fishing the wrong process. And at the end, it's very important to understand when you are wrong and come and tell you are wrong. Again, like referencing the New York Times case with the FTX, that you can't just go over and over and over again and try to portray that, oh, we didn't do a mistake. Like if you do a mistake, you have to acknowledge it.
No, Vugar, I think it's very interesting you said like, okay, the PR firms kind of benefit, and Yeah, I hear you, because journalists, they're writing the stories and receiving the pitches and covering stories. But at the end of the day, as well, as we're here to serve the industry, help make sure that the narrative and the right people get heard. So yeah, it is, tempting to basically say yes to all the projects that are coming into our inbox. But we have to make sure, we have to first understand and realize, why are we doing this? Why are we here in this industry? And if we want to be sustainable, I've been through maybe 2 bear markets. Maybe I started in the 2018 bear market. So 2 to 3 bear markets. If you're here for the long run, you just want to make sure you do it right, do it ethically all the way through. And yeah, that's a challenge.
I feel, I completely agree with Samantha, is that if you are building a brand, you have to create that from day one. You are going to sticking you up because you're playing a long game. For us, it's a very simple 3-step process. We ask the community members, because it's a decentralized platform, with what is the opinion of community about any particular project. Second is, then we pitch to our internal journalists. If they say yes, they want to pick it up. And then the third one is our own research. So if any project passes these 3 checklists, then it is published. Otherwise, we just say no to them.
I think it's a little easier these days to, in a pseudonymous kind of world, it can be quite difficult with projects, especially to find stuff. But now, with so many contracts, sort of audits, we always look at how many audits there are on things. Anonymous teams, a million miles away from those, because I think we've all learned our lessons over the years. And also, track record of who is behind a project is really, really important. I think community is huge as well, like you said. So I think there is research that can be done very easily to have a look at the quality of a project, probably easier than it used to be a few years ago.
I think with how easy it is becoming, it's also becoming challenging in other side. Like you mentioned about audits. I just heard recently most of the audits are AI processed right now. And it's not even gone through proper diligence. It's not even tested properly. So I think there's a lot of noise to also clear in the space. And that's where my next question comes to, the trust. People look at media for trust. People think about anything that's coming in the media, they look at that and they react to it. So they do some good things like buying or selling something by panic, purely from what they hear and the speculation that's happening around it. So if media is in the business of building trust and media is in the business of securing the trust, what is your role in that process? I know both from almost all the media here, you do have educational aspects to educate, teach. You help people with bringing all those facts out. But what would you say as your number one most important trust building activity in the space?
Especially at being crypto, I think the most we are focusing is because news now travels so fast that as a media organization, until you do your due diligence, your check, journalist writes it out, it's never like a last minute, right? It's not something goes down or up, or you make a purchasing decision or selling decision based on the news, because you already got your information from Telegram channels or Twitter. What media's main aspect for us, at least, is today, first to educate, second the research, breaking stories, or actually doing a huge investigative journalism and talking about X project, are they scam or they're doing something really good or really bad, and bringing that knowledge and a whistleblowing. I think that's the one major aspect of the media. And secondly, for example, we take a huge pride at being crypto being a very large learn content, because our aim to become reference point for everything Web3, as simple as what is Bitcoin, what is cold wallet, and all these what is questions are mainly answered, because our main goal is to bring more people to Web3 rather than facilitate the Web3 journey. Because if you are a crypto geek, you already have at least 10 very trusted sources to get your knowledge. You don't want to come to read being crypto and all our competitors, because no one can claim that they are the fastest. Yes, we do break stories. Yes, we do investigative journalism, but traditional media, I'll call it, even though we are a super digital and modern, you never come there to make your purchasing decision, and you shouldn't.
At Yap Global, it comes down to the basics of journalism. It's about getting the facts right and getting the technical aspects right, which is a challenging thing in crypto, because the space moves so fast and it's so technical, and everyone talks about, what's the purpose of a certain token, what's the utility of a token. So we do a lot of education internally with our team on, we do crypto 101s every week, just to study and learn the space so that we know it well enough to pitch it to the media and make sure that we're filtering out just the noise, because we know that journalists get hundreds of pitches a day. So we want you guys to trust that when you get a pitch from Yap Global, that we've done our part in understanding the facts, just getting the facts right, because that's what's going to build trust. And even numbers, numbers could be highly inflated, or there's so much numbers flying around, especially in a bull market. So how do you know if it's that's a genuine TVL, or that's a genuine amount of tokens that is there? So yeah, the trust is getting the facts right.
I feel trust comes out of transparency. If you are transparent about what you are doing, what kind of projects you are taking, and in fact, I'm a big fan of Wikipedia. They ask people for money. They say that because we want to be independent, we are asking money from you. So I think when we are transparent about it, so we always mention that, do we have certain holdings in certain coins? And this could be, there's always a human bias. So we always mention that. Second is, while we are taking any project, we always tell our users as well that this is a promoted content, sponsored content, so that they know that this is because they have been paid and not just because it's a news out of it.
I think it's interesting on the whistleblowing thing you're saying, because we actually came unstuck we outed a Ponzi scheme on the channel. And I thought, great, we've outed it, we got lots of good feedback. Next thing, Telegram, Russians saying, we know where you live. And it was very scary for a short period of time. Cut to 14 cameras around the house and me paranoid. So I think it's great to be transparent, and but certainly from a whistleblowing perspective, if you're going to do that, make sure you've got some security support.
This question is specifically to start with you, Samantha. In the space, trends are formed by what a lot of people do. And I have been on the side of, on the media side, I've been on the marketing side, and all of this. And one thing I see is that many of these PR agencies, they do bribe the journalist. And in fact, all the journalists, like in Being Crypto, they receive messages in LinkedIn, like hundreds and hundreds of messages. Do this, put our link in there, do this, we'll pay you, etc. So they reach the media or they reach the journalist and they squeeze this. And that creates a pattern. Now, everyone who are a journalist or the media, they know this is becoming a habit, and they're getting that offered from so many PR medias. Even those that say they work with earned media, I know, I've been on one side seeing what they say, and I also see what they pay to people on the other side. So it's all, there's a lot of lies in the space. So when you have to work with, in purely from earned media pitching, you will be facing these challenges from many of the other journalists and so on. There is an expectation that's set. How do you get beyond that? How do you fight with your competitors who are pay to play when you have to work the right path of ethics, and your clients are going to question you? They are not going to care how you get that job, and they're going to question you for the results. How do you deal with that?
Well, firstly, bribing a journalist, that is very bad. You do it by playing it right, by doing it right, by pitching journalists the right way. A company like Bloomberg, a publication like Bloomberg, they actually have a policy where we actually can't buy them coffee, or we can't buy them lunch. Even if I sit down, the journalist has to cover lunch. I had to catch up with a Wall Street Journal reporter who specialized in cryptocurrencies. I want to get the bill. It's just a coffee, but he won't take it, because these respected publications, they have ethics, they have rules that they have to abide by, and we have to respect them. Now, the challenge is with earned media is, you can't guarantee. So we might work really hard on a good pitch, a good press release, and we can't guarantee to our clients that they're going to get published, because it's up to their editorial judgment. But you do it by making sure you're keeping up with the trends, you're getting a good story for them, and just playing the game right. And yes, you may not, like, we might pitch a story to Bloomberg or CoinDesk, and they might not take it, but it's all about building that relationship, that long-term partnership and relationship with that journalist to build more trust. So you just do it by doing the right thing, and just keeping your ethics up. So the pay for play. And also, if you are bribing a journalist and a journalist takes that bribe, then how good of a journalist are they? So you have to also be mindful with sponsored content. When you go on these websites, like even with CoinDesk, if you've sponsored a content, it won't come up on the editorial section. So automatically the credibility of a piece is tainted because it's paid for.
I think this question is more for Voice of Crypto and Being Crypto. you might be playing on the right side, but your journalists are being pitched by other media for money. How do you and your editorial team make sure that that thing doesn't pass through? How do you filter those things out?
Okay, let's make one thing clear. Like, there's a sponsored content which is clearly labeled as a sponsored content. It can be press release, it can be any source of article, which is not an editorial piece. It should be clearly labeled as a sponsored article. There's a transparent fee. You can go to any large media publication, download your media kit, pay that money, get in there. If you want to pay, why don't you go through it that way, right? The clear, sponsored, and everyone is happy. Then there's another part where the PR companies or the PR professionals from the in-house companies come to the journalists to pitch a story, which is a very normal and standard practice, because as a journalist, you do need a story, right? You need to write about something. Where do you get that knowledge? You can't just sit in a cafe, ask people. You need that professional help from PR agencies coming and pitching you the story. And once that pitching happens, it means you have the kind of liberty as a journalist to write about it and not to write about it. But if you get bribed within the process, it means both sides are committing a crime. It's like a corruption. It is actually like a legislative issue. If we uncover one, we'll take that journalist to the court. You shouldn't be doing that. And also, we will be continuously monitoring by the editor-in-chiefs that whenever the journalist submits a story, you easily can detect if it is like an unbiased story with different sources, cross-checks, or it is like promotional content. And if it's that a promotional content, then you have to send these people to the sponsored route rather than coming through. Therefore, there's nothing wrong as a journalist being pitched, but if you are being pitched and getting X amount on top of it, that's a problem. Another guideline we hold on to, like, if you are as a journalist, you have to always be transparent what assets you hold. And if you are holding an asset on particular platform, I don't know, particular chain or the particular coin, then you are not allowed to write about it. Because you can't just hold a token and shill it, and then it goes against your ethics. Therefore, it's always transparent, and whenever you go to almost all large media publications, like from TechCrunch to us being crypto, you'll see that journalists will always have a disclaimer telling what kind of assets they're holding.
So, I mean, from my point of view, I'll again come back to, are you playing a long game or a short game? So, if I have certain journalists, and it's always good because, for example, if I trust a certain PR agency, I know that they come to me after filtering out certain things. It also saves my time, it also saves my research. So I'll start building that trust. Second, I also agree with you, is, I mean, that's a practice which we also follow, is we always say that which all assets we hold and whether do we have some sort of interest in it. But yeah, I mean, obviously bribing it is not, I mean, it is completely against the ethos of journalism. If somebody is found doing that, you have to sack it. Usually in publication, traditional media, they also keep changing the beats of journalists so that they don't stay in the same beat and then they start getting those internal circuits. So these are few measures which we also take from.
One of the things I noticed in the crypto space, I think about 2019, there was an article that was published which actually revealed with screenshots conversation with multiple top crypto media and the journalists accepting bribe and money for publishing. But after that article went out, nothing happened for the media. Media continued to be on that same level that they were playing, and everything just continued to be life as usual, even after all that went out. And that's something that makes me sad with the crypto space. You see people make a very big fraud, and then they come back with the next company, and the crypto space is open for it. Which I guess is where the money is, the challenges prop along with it. So I have this vision, a question of vision that I want to know from every one of you. How do you see like the ideal improvement or the vision for the media in the crypto space from now? If there is one more step up, if there is one more improvement, what would you want that improvement, not with your companies, but in the space as a whole? What would you expect that improvement to be?
Honestly, like, I grew up in a household where we had like one TV. We will sit in front of it every evening, get all our news. It was kind of our single source of truth. It's no more like that, right? We have so many sources to get an information that you don't rely on that. And why I'm referencing this, because like, as you mentioned, like there was an investigative article, but nothing happened with the news media, because at the end of the day, news media is a platform where a bunch of journalists publish. Therefore, you can blame a journalist, take them out of a business. You can put new legislation, new rules, new house rules in place to not it to repeat, but still we all need that media and source of information. But where I see the news media or like general media happening, I think we need to better apply the technology, because all the news media we are talking today are still stuck on Web 2, they're not Web 3. But if we end up implementing blockchain and making sure that whatever you write and you publish can never be deleted and went back and changed, it means we can better put people in the places that we know who wrote what. When they did that, they can never change, they can never take it down, they can never distance themselves. And it, in my opinion, it will put more trust in place for the end user, but it will also put enough control mechanisms for the journalists that it will, you know, haunt them wherever they go, whatever they do, if they decide to make something wrong or shill a coin or take the bribes, and they can never escape from that.
Okay, so on-chain media.
More on-chain, more making sure that everything is recorded and recorded irreversibly, yes.
Okay, that's perfect.
This isn't quite visionary, but it's really important. But it's just to make sure that the quality of stories are still high. I've witnessed and seen, you know, media publications, yes, suffer during this bear market, and during previous bear markets, you've seen journalists. We've worked personally with journalists that have lost their jobs because, you know, you've seen CoinDesk had to lay off a few people, The Block had to lay off a few people, and so is Decrypt. So you've got to, you know, realize that there are we do need journalists. So we just want to make sure we are keeping the quality of journalism high, because I think we've also seen, you know, this types of stories maybe get shorter. There's a lot more typos, a lot of inaccuracies. So just making sure that we're keeping the ethics, the standards, and the quality high, and just keeping it sustainable. So, I mean, our business does rely on the media, and we do want to see CoinDesk, The Block, Decrypt, you know, Bloomberg, CNBC, and their crypto coverage just keep going, because we've only been around for, I mean, Web3 has been around for what, like not even 20 years yet. So like Bitcoin's not even 20 years old. So, I mean, we want to build that legacy media and that reputation. So yeah, keeping it sustainable. Yeah.
So, I mean, from my point of view, I think decentralized media is something which will evolve eventually, in which you all have power to create content and to put in a media, let people vote for it if this content is approved. Is it a legit content? Second, what I still feel, and what you also said is quite, I mean, we are at a very, very initial stage of crypto media. One is we are still recruiting people from traditional media. So there has to be a set of new journalists who will come into this whole industry. And then it can be divided into multiple beats. Currently, we don't have a lot of beats. So you have DeFi specialists, you have metaverse specialists. I think these things, when they evolve, the whole industry and will evolve from here.
For the final words, I want the vision from you, because you are making documentaries, not instantly publishing them, but you take 2 to 3 years. So you get the retrospective aspect of everything, and you put together the past, the present, and the future. So what do you have to say?
I'm hopeful that Web3 is essentially, with decentralization, going to give democracy to the whole space, not just for the content, but for who has the control and access to it as well. So I think, following on from what you were saying, we were, you know, much younger, used to just the BBC telling us our news. Where we're heading is potentially DAO-based, you know, journalism. Now, that probably comes with some downsides as well, of how do you keep the quality up, like you were saying. But I think fully decentralized on-chain is where it's going to get really interesting.
That's perfect. And I think this panel has also given more questions to think about. Decentralization, citizen journalism, and the challenges of quality that comes with it. But I think that's for next Zebu Live's year's panel, I guess. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in here. It was a great, hot discussion, and see you all around. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith.